you the power of two.
Recovered from the crash scene after a 2-week search, the cockpit voice recorder from Egypt Air 990 considered the key to determining if the crash was a crime.
Within the next 2 or 3 days, we'll be able to answer a lot of the puzzling questions.
The race against time in Turkey to rescue those buried alive in Friday's earthquake.
There's international teams here from all over the world doing rescue work, and I'm sure there's still people that will be saved at some point.
And the dueling demonstrations today in Decatur, Illinois, where racial tensions have burst into the open.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. A key piece of evidence in the crash of Egypt Air Flight 990 is finally in the hands of investigators tonight. They hope it will tell them what caused the Boeing 767 to dive into the sea and whether it was a criminal act. Tonight, the FBI is prepared to take a lead role in the investigation if the evidence warrants. The second black box, which contains the cockpit voice recorder, was recovered last night and is now being analyzed at the National Transportation Safety Board headquarters in Washington. NBC's Pat Dawson reports on how it was recovered.
2 weeks after Flight 990's final plunge to the sea, the best hope for answering why emerged in the delicate grip of a submersible drone.
It was located in the vicinity of the pinger, around which we have been searching.
Days of frustrating delay, fighting high seas, sifting through tons of wreckage. Finally, the cockpit voice recorder, now a crucial part of the investigation, is brought to the deck of the USS Grapple. Within minutes, Navy crewmen placed the recorder in salt water to duplicate the environment underwater and rushed it to Washington and the NTSB's lab.
The first thing, of course, that will have to be ascertained is the condition of the tape and the internal workings of that recorder. And then shortly thereafter, we will begin the process of reading the recorder out.
Using equipment like this, which has successfully reclaimed critical data from even damaged recorders time after time. Success this time may be the only way to explain Egypt Air Flight 990's strange final flight path. First, what looks like an intentional nose-down descent into a steep 40-degree angle and near supersonic speed, maneuvers dangerously beyond what's recommended for a 767. 20 seconds later, the fuel controls are switched to cutoff, shutting down the engines. But why? It has to be done manually and makes recovery almost impossible. Then an abrupt climb, sudden enough to toss passengers around the cabin. Finally, the last plunge from 24,000 feet, the plane breaking apart. A chain of events so baffling, it raises questions about terrorism, a cockpit intruder, even pilot suicide.
I think it's going to take the cockpit voice recorder to put that information in context.
And if it reveals criminal activity, the FBI would become the lead investigative agency.
We would obviously be interested in any members of the crew, along with passengers as well as the cargo of that plane.
If the cockpit voice recorder was working properly and there was no disruption of its power source, it should have taped the final 30 minutes of Flight 990, the last voices and sounds of a mystery that cost 217 lives. Pat Dawson, NBC News, Newport, Rhode Island.
And the families of those killed in the crash are especially anxious for answers. That part of the story from NBC's Stan Bernard.
Larry and Edith Kowalski, married for nearly half a century, were planning to see the Nile with friends Norm and Joan Shapiro. Richard and Virginia Brokaw of Vermont were newlyweds in their 70s. Beverly Grant, an 82-year-old grandmother from California, was part of a tour group. Her son-in-law today on the news that the cockpit voice recorder has now been recovered.
I would like to know what actually happened, what the real reason is, and again, it doesn't change very much. You know what I really hope? I really hope that somebody wakes me up from this nightmare and tells me that it's not so and that it didn't happen.
Last Sunday at the water's edge in Rhode Island, loved ones of those aboard Egypt Air Flight 990 attended a memorial service. They have accepted the fact that remains most likely will not be recovered. What they want now are answers. Relatives of the flight crew have special concerns about the cause of the crash, since the flight data recorder, which was recovered earlier, did not disclose mechanical problems, and that led to speculation about a possible crew suicide.
Everyone was satisfied with their life, and I don't think that this was intentionally. And of course, in Islam faith, this is completely forbidden.
What can I say? It's very
difficult, maybe. Yes.
Very difficult to say, think about this. Very difficult. But I hope people here can know what happened.
One family member said whatever caused the crash, it will not bring loved ones back, and they want to know what happened, why 217 people died. Stan Bernard, NBC News, New York.
When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, the search for survivors of the earthquake in Turkey. And a day of social upheaval in central Illinois.
A significant discovery in eye health may be lutein, a nutrient found in these healthy foods, perhaps as vital to your eyes as the beta-carotene in carrots. And now, Centrum and Centrum Silver are the only leading multivitamins that have lutein. So whatever your age, you can help maintain your precious sight. Look into Centrum and Centrum Silver, now more complete with lutein. Also look for Centrum Herbals, the only herbals backed by Centrum Science.
Right now at LensCrafters, you can get a complete pair of great-looking glasses for only $99 in your choice of hundreds of the latest styles.
The LensCrafters $99 complete pair sale.
Only $99. You can't afford to miss an offer like this.
Hurry, offer ends November 20th.
Two days after Turkey's second huge earthquake in 3 months, the death toll has passed 370. But the search for survivors goes on despite the mounting grief. NBC's Ron Allen is in the quake zone tonight.
These rescue workers from Fairfax County, Virginia, know these mounds of concrete and steel all too well. They're back in Turkey today, just as after the August quake, delicately yet aggressively digging for signs of life.
We're way in the window of survivors. In fact, this morning they were saying that they were hearing voices coming out through this hole. And that's why we're attacking this hole.
The work slows when they discover a body. One of 5 family members trapped, the fate of the others still unknown. This is what pushes the workers on. More seemingly impossible rescues earlier today, but the pace slowed. Just a few survivors were pulled free. Now comes the grieving. This was a funeral for 8 relatives killed when their home collapsed. The mother, father, sisters, and brothers of Helushe Kuyush. Life is over in this town after 2 earthquakes, he says. They should never build anything taller than 1 story high. 2 deadly quakes back-to-back here have consumed this region with a sense of doom.
They talk about a sort of punishment of God. They talk about the end of the world. The year 2000 is coming. Turkey is going to be erased from the surface of the earth.
Many people say they'll never go back to damaged homes. These people returned after the first quake. Inspectors said the building was safe, but the second quake nearly brought it down. These women escaped through this narrow opening. The inspectors told us we could go back, she says. Look what they've done to us. There's still hope of finding more survivors. The work goes on around the clock, in freezing cold temperatures, extremely harsh conditions, for the workers still hoping for another miracle, and for anyone still buried under the rubble and clinging to life. Ron Allen, NBC News, Düzce, Turkey.
Despite the quake, President Clinton has arrived in Turkey, the first leg of a 10-day trip with some ambitious goals. NBC's John Palmer outlines the agenda.
On the flight to Turkey, President Clinton, who will tour earthquake-damaged areas, indicated that more U.S. humanitarian aid may be on the way. And on the diplomatic front, Mr. Clinton announced that Greek and Turkish leaders have agreed to resume negotiations over the divided island of Cyprus. That's one of several ambitious goals set by the president to bring more stability to Europe.
We have to create positive forces that pull the people toward unity, which are stronger than the forces of history, pulling them toward division, hatred, and death.
The president's European trip was to have begun in Greece, but last week's big anti-American demonstrations forced Mr. Clinton to delay and shorten his visit there. The heart of the trip, a summit in Istanbul with the leaders of 53 other countries to focus on internal conflicts in Europe, like those in Bosnia and Kosovo. Mr. Clinton will visit U.S. peacekeeping troops in Kosovo and will again warn that Yugoslavia faces continued isolation as long as Slobodan Milosevic remains in power.
That's really a very symbolic stop. He is showing clearly here that the United States is supporting the UN effort in Kosovo. And in a sense, he's kind of thumbing his nose at Milosevic.
Mr. Clinton will also meet with Russian President Yeltsin and press for an end to Russia's military offensive in Chechnya. Aides say it will be a blunt message.
The indiscriminate use of force against insurgents intermingled with civilians is both wrong and counterproductive.
Of all the difficult issues Mr. Clinton will tackle on this trip, aides say none is more threatening to European stability than Russia's unyielding war against Chechnya. John Palmer, NBC News at the White House.
And so far, the Russians have turned a deaf ear to Western complaints, even as they have escalated the military pressure in Chechnya. NBC's Kevin Tibbles has our report.
Chechnya is under siege by Russian forces on the ground and from the air. Troops have now taken Chechnya's second largest city and are going door to door, searching for Chechen rebels intent on independence. The Russians show no sign of stopping. As winter sets in, some 200,000 refugees have fled the fighting, heading for 10 cities on the other side of the border. But aid agencies say hundreds of civilians have been killed while fleeing. Thousands more, like this young boy, injured in the shelling. Outbreaks of tuberculosis and dysentery have European diplomats who visited the camps calling them a disaster in the making.
We are facing a significant and serious humanitarian situation.
Russian officials scoff at the charge. This minister saying on Russian TV, a humanitarian disaster can't happen here. We're a rich and strong enough country to handle this. Human rights groups say the West has let the refugees down.
There has been some strong language from the EU and from the United States government, but if you look at the refugee situation, the West has not been quite strong enough.
And as Russian soldiers are stepping up their winter assault on the rebels, Russian military leaders are stepping up their verbal attacks on the critics of this war, especially the United States. Defense Minister Igor Sergeyev accusing the U.S. of trying to weaken Russia. President Boris Yeltsin met with his prime minister today. The Russian message firm: the West should butt out on Chechnya. But also today, 2,000 more refugees joined the ever-swelling numbers who fled Chechnya for their lives. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Moscow.
When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, getting down to business on the World Wide Web.
Problem?
Doctor said my cholesterol is still too high.
What about diet and exercise?
They didn't do enough.
So?
He suggested adding Lipitor.
Lipitor, the #1 prescribed medication for lowering cholesterol. In clinical studies, Lipitor with diet was proven to lower bad cholesterol 39 to 60%, total cholesterol 29 to 45%, triglycerides 19 to 37%.
He said over 4 million people have started taking Lipitor to lower their cholesterol.
Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver disease or possible liver problems, women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant.
There'll be blood tests to check for liver problems.
Tell your doctor about muscle pain or weakness, as these may be signs of serious side effects.
You take Lipitor once a day.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist for more information on Lipitor and call 1-888-LIPITOR.
Well?
Lipitor did it. My cholesterol's way down.
Lipitor, the lower numbers you're looking for.
If you feel like your body chemistry is working overtime and you sweat more than other women, then you know it takes more than the strength of steel to deal with it. It takes the strength of platinum. Introducing Secret Platinum Protection. This platinum strength secret is the strongest form of antiperspirant you can get without a prescription. In fact, nothing is stronger. New Secret Platinum Protection. It's more than strong enough for them. It's strong enough for you.
What if you could
could find the exact car you want, in the color you want, at a dealer near you, just by moving a mouse.
Silver's nice.
No, red.
Gold?
Black. Well, now you can.
It's our website.
GMBuyPower.com.
This week on Today, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Christina Ricci, Johnny Depp, The Divine Miss M, Rob Lowe, and Kurt Browning out on the rink. All this week on Today.
In focus this evening, internet economics. Businesses of all sizes are finding that e-commerce is essential. Billions of dollars are being spent online already. NBC's Soledad O'Brien has our report.
When Kim Marslander heads to work, she's not thinking about how to make money, but how to spend it wisely. In the next 2 months, she'll spend $350 million all over the internet.
It allows us to reduce our time, our overhead, and be first to the market.
She works for Visteon, the giant auto parts manufacturer, one of many places where e-commerce is changing the way business is conducted. Using the instant communications of the internet saves the company both time and money. Suppliers submit bids online. That competition leads to lower prices. Millions of dollars saved this year alone.
We currently purchase about $2 billion a year in purchase parts, and I anticipate that we'll be using the internet for almost 100% of that in 5 years.
Okay. All sorts of businesses are being revolutionized in the unglamorous way they buy, market, sell, and support their goods. IBM expects to cut 5 million pages of paperwork by purchasing online this year. GE, NBC's parent company, has used the internet to reduce the cost of some service calls from as much as $80 to as little as 20 cents. British Telecom has cut the cost of completing a purchase order from $113 to $80 and expects it to go as low as $8 in the next few years. Doug Aldrich is the managing director of electronic services for the consulting firm A.T. Kearney.
This is not just a manufacturing change. This is not just about large-scale software. This is not business as usual with a website stuck out in the end. This is a fundamental rethinking of the way you go to market, a fundamental rethinking of the products and services you offer to that market.
Business-to-business transactions are expected to jump from about $45 billion last year to $1.3 trillion in 2003. That's about 1 out of every $6 spent in the U.S. And it's not just big corporations. Internet companies are springing up to provide services to businesses of all sizes. These people used to work in the healthcare industry. Now their expertise is being used by an internet company, VerticalNet, to create a single marketplace where healthcare businesses and healthcare business suppliers can find each other. VerticalNet has already created market sites for thousands of companies in 51 distinct industries, from aerospace to wastewater. Companies like Brooks Instruments, which makes flow valves used in everything from testing spacesuits to making ice cream.
The internet has really been a help to our salespeople. They don't have to go looking for new customers. They're coming looking for us, and you can't top that. That's never happened before.
These market-creating internet companies could become the most profitable industry on the internet.
3 to 5 to 8 cents out of every dollar that goes through a digital pipe will remain with some broker or market maker like us as this industrial business-to-business use of the internet grows.
That translates into tens of billions of dollars for the internet market makers. And they say consumers will benefit too.
The driving effect of this digital economy will be to lower prices and improve quality. And so long-term, I think the benefits will be dramatic to the consumer.
But among the probable losers, the wholesalers, distributors, buyers, and sellers who handle most of the business-to-business transactions now, e-commerce could make those jobs obsolete. Soledad O'Brien, NBC News.
When we continue, trouble in a place called the Pride of the Prairie.
Yeah, let me get this straight.
Yes.
Are you actually saying I don't have to pay you a separate commission every time I trade a stock?
Exactly.
I'd pay an annual fee instead.
Right.
Is anyone getting
If we
this?
don't pay you a commission every time we trade, what's your motivation?
It's just like always, Ann, your best interest.
Could you just explain it again?
Maybe what it is the fee is based on the value of our portfolios. So when we succeed, they succeed.
You'll have to be patient with us. This is all very new.
Right now at LensCrafters, you can get a complete pair of great-looking glasses for only $99 in your choice of hundreds of the latest styles.
The LensCrafters $99 complete pair sale.
Only $99. You can't afford to miss an offer like this.
Hurry, offer ends November 20th.
Suffering from nasal congestion? A new kind of relief is about to be revealed. Introducing Natravent, the only preservative-free nasal spray. For long-lasting relief, new Natravent. No preservatives, fast relief.
Ask your doctor about Viagra.
Monday, a special lifeline. What if you could turn back the clock, stop the brain's aging process, even reverse the effects of Alzheimer's? Don't miss NBC Nightly News Monday.
Sports Sunday with Colin Cowley. Tonight at 11:35.
For Idaho potatoes, Spuddy Buddy.
Nobody bakes up so easy like I do. Nobody whips up so fluffy like I do. Nobody makes a great French fry like I do. Nobody but me, babe.
Who can you always count on for great potato taste and quality? Nobody but Idaho potatoes, babe.
Nobody but me, babe.
To Decatur, Illinois now, about 150 miles south of Chicago, where a fist fight involving teenagers has set off a civil rights battle among adults. NBC's Suzanne Malveaux has our report.
A small city, a large controversy, a community divided. The Reverend Jesse Jackson and thousands of protesters, most of them from Chicago, demanding a reduced penalty for 7 black students kicked out of school for fighting. A few blocks away, a group supporting the punishment handed down by the school board and the message it sends about zero tolerance for violence. And across town, the Ku Klux Klan criticizing efforts for compromise. A tough day for a town which calls itself the pride of the prairie. The fight now, the result of a fight at a high school football game nearly 2 months ago. School officials originally expelled those involved for 2 years. After protests closed Decatur's schools, the mostly white school board reduced the punishment to 1 year in an alternative school. In one sense, it's a dispute as to whether the punishment fits the offense. But in a town already struggling with racial issues, it's a debate that has been framed in terms of black and white. And all over town today, resentment that out-of-towners have gotten involved.
I think Jesse Jackson picked the wrong cause.
I don't believe that Reverend Jesse Jackson came in and muddied the water. I have to believe that he just came in and stirred up the water that is already muddy.
Across town, Bishop Calvin Peppers and his parishioners say they are thankful someone is finally addressing Decatur's racial divide. A blue-collar town known for its soybean and farm equipment production, its black population grown to nearly 17%. Greg and Tina Parsons, who have lived here together for a few months, are concerned that emotions now out in the open will change their lives.
Those individuals who might have been less likely to verbalize or bring up racial discussion or confrontation are going to be more motivated to do so.
The school discipline issue, which started all of this, remains unresolved. And now the national spotlight is on a town which doesn't want it. Suzanne Malveaux, NBC News, Decatur, Illinois.
When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, an update on our top story, the crash of Egypt Air Flight 990, the work to be done in this building in Washington, the careful examination of the second black box.
So, how you doing?
Oh,
miserable.
What?
Breakfast time, we sit around while folks pop something sweet from the toaster.
Oh, yeah.
What's not to love? Real eggs.
Hey, bacon.
And cheese. Say, what if somebody wrapped us up in a pastry crust and popped us up?
Pillsbury Toaster Scrambles. Real eggs, smoky bacon, creamy cheese in a flaky pastry crust right in your grocer's freezer. Mmm. Pillsbury Toaster Scrambles.
Look out, sweet stuff.
Mom, did that file open yet?
No.
Buy a Gateway PC with the YourWare program and you can trade it in toward the purchase of a new one in 2 years.
Mom!
So you'll never have an old computer. Call 1-800-GATEWAY. Get a Gateway PC with an Intel Pentium 3 processor with a year of AOL included.
I need strong arthritis relief. I want soft skin. Now I get both.
Introducing new Arthricare hand and body lotion. Fast relief of minor arthritis pain plus special skin softeners. Arthricare lotion. Pain relief plus moisturizers.
All in one.
In the last 13 years, Nicorette helped over 1 million people help themselves stop smoking. And that was the reason that convinced me to use Nicorette. All these people knew it was safe and effective. Nicorette delivers a low level of nicotine fast to help control cravings without the tars and toxins found in cigarettes. And Nicorette was proven safe and effective in more clinical trials than any other product. Just the idea that Nicorette had helped all those people made me feel that Nicorette was the right choice for me in the end. Which it was.
Nicorette helps you fight your cravings, your habit, your way. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
This week of Parade, Frasier's Kelsey Grammer and Perry Gilpin look at what America eats. Sheila Lukens explores Thanksgiving classics, and we'll tell you why some fat is good for you. Plus, James Brady's in step with Broadway star Brian Stokes Mitchell. Also, Walter Scott's Personality Parade and columnist Marilyn Voss Savant. It's all in Parade, your favorite Sunday newspaper magazine.
It's like today, only later. Later today, weekdays on NBC.
Dateline Sunday, a salesman, an ex-con, and a go-go dancer heading for the Holy Land.
God is bringing special chosen ones to this land.
Do they know something we don't? Dateline Sunday.
An update now on our top story, the recovery of the cockpit voice recorder from Egypt Air Flight 990. It's being analyzed right now at the National Transportation Safety Board lab in Washington, D.C. NBC's Joe Johns joins us from there. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, John. The question here tonight, whether investigators will be able to retrieve usable audio from that audio recorder that will unlock the mystery.
No cameras are being allowed in tonight, but this is the fifth-floor office, part laboratory, part conference room, where the work is done. A grim ritual conducted in secrecy over bright orange boxes like this one. Cockpit voice recorders are built to withstand 2,000-degree temperatures and forces 5,000 times that of gravity. Microphones recording cockpit sounds on a 30-minute loop, preserving what investigators hope is a clear record of the final moments of a doomed plane. That is especially important in the Egypt Air flight.
Ideally, what they would like to hear would be extensive conversation on the part of the flight crew, analyzing what's happening to them. That would be the thing that would be most helpful.
The NTSB has linguists on standby to translate if the Egypt Air pilots spoke in Arabic instead of English. But the investigators are also trained to identify suspicious sounds, any alarm, click, or pop. On Egypt Air 990, there were microphones on the crew's headsets as well as on an overhead panel in the center of the cockpit. Tim Forte is a flight safety expert.
You have the capability of listening to it frame by frame, and you have the capability of isolating channels. If you wanted to listen to only the captain, you could do that. If you wanted to listen to only the cockpit area mic, you do that.
Cockpit voice recorders have often helped investigators unravel mysteries concerning air crashes. One example, in 1996, in a ValueJet crash, recorded screams of fire led to the discovery that an exploding oxygen canister was the cause.
The analysts in this building expect to be very busy over the next several days. Over the next 24 hours, they expect to find out whether the voice recorder of Egypt Air Flight 990 is damaged and how complete it is. John?
NBC's Joe Johns with late word from NTSB headquarters tonight. Thank you. And that is NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. Now here's Jane Pauley with a preview of tonight's edition of Dateline.
Thanks, John. You've heard about the Y2K threat. Now another. Crowds of believers gathering in the Holy Land predict the apocalypse. Might some be tempted to get it started? Tonight on Dateline. John?
Thanks, Jane. Tom Brokaw will be here tomorrow night. I'm John Siegenthaler reporting from New York. Thanks for watching. I'll see you here next weekend, if not before.